Joel Wallace here with my fourth of the five technologies I've selected. The fourth one I chose was Zearn. Zearn is a website that can be used as a resource that allows students to practice math concepts, and the way it's set up, they get to progress through problems and concepts kind of at their own pace. The purpose of Zearn is it's an online resource that provides students with the opportunities to practice various math concepts that the teacher selects. The audience is it's intended to be used by elementary students. The HG standards I selected were that of the educator, the first one being that of the facilitator. That's creating learning opportunities that challenge students to use a design process in computational thinking to innovate and solve problems. And then the second one was that of an analyst that uses and provides alternative ways for students to demonstrate competency and reflect on their learning using technology. So, just go to Zearn, like learn both a Z, .org. Okay. I just go ahead and sign in with Google. Okay, and so here is my home page. The first thing I would suggest you do once you get here is you go to the, if you're a kindergarten teacher, you can select here, but if you look at the grades 1 through 5, as you see here, this is the curriculum portion. So if you click on the grade 1, it'll show you all the different things you can select to work on in first grade, second grade. I'm a 5th grade teacher, so I've been having my students work through these different concepts here. What we're going to need to do is create a class. I'd already created one earlier, so I'll just go ahead and create a new one. Let's call this my practice class. Okay, so they provide this class code here, and you will need this later, so keep that in mind. But first, you'll need to go through and you'll have to add students. For this, you will need to go through and type in each of your students' names. If you have a lot of students, it can be time-consuming, but once you get them entered, it's quite simple from there. So just type in first and last name, and then you'll click next. This is their ID that the Zearn comes up with the form, and password, so you don't have to worry about coming up with any of that. You can still edit it if you want to, but I usually just go with what they provide. And then this is a pretty important part, because you are going to be picking what grade you want them to start on. Even though I am a 5th grade teacher, I might pick some of my students who are really struggling to go back and practice some of the 4th grade concepts and standards, but then they break it down into the different content areas: place value, base 10, adding and subtracting, fractions, things like that. So you go through and just pick one of those that you want to focus on, and then if you want, you just start them off at A, and they'll work through all the way to the end. But if you want, you can skip ahead and pick one of those and then finish. Alright, so next, if you want to, and I did this and I would suggest it, is get login cards, and it'll just print off some cards like this that you can cut out and pass to students that have their username and their login. But even once the kids get logged in, they will need this class code. They will have to use that to access the starting point you want them to start at and the assignments you want them to work on. Okay, click done. Alright, so here's my class. It tells them grade 5, and this is what standards are their starting points. After your students get logged on and get working on for a little bit, you can click here, you go back to whatever grades you selected, but then click on the reports. And now right here, it's not showing anything at the moment, but once my students were to start, it would show me how they're progressing. I can see it even has kind of a little model that shows how far along they are and um, what level they've built up to. So it's a real simple way to just kind of track their progress and things like that. And you can see which students are actually doing some work and which students are maybe falling behind and things like that. So it's an easy way to really monitor it. I've used some of these other math websites to try and get my students to chances to practice, but some of the other ones I didn't like their questions as much. I thought that they weren't quite aligned to the standards and the concepts I had taught well enough, but I find Zearn is a really good resource that, again, I can pinpoint exactly what I want them to focus on, which just, to me, has been very beneficial for my students.